Hello, I'm Edward Tarte, math teacher. This is another in a series of solution videos to some of my math challenges. The math challenge for this solution video is my hike and ride challenge. Here is how I presented that challenge in the original video. There were 12 soldiers under a commander who were required to go to a destination 75 kilometers away. The only transportation available was a jeep that could carry, along with the driver, a maximum of 4 passengers. So the commander decided on a method that would combine hiking and riding in the jeep. He loaded 4 of the soldiers into the jeep and set out toward the destination, telling the remaining 8 to start hiking. He went part way to the destination, unloaded the 4, and told them to hike the rest of the way. Then he doubled back to where the 8 were hiking, picked up 4 of them, transported them not all the way, part of the way to the destination, unloaded them, told them to continue hiking. He then doubled back and picked up the remaining 4 and transported them by jeep the rest of the way to the destination. And as it turned out, perhaps by careful planning on the part of the commander, all of them arrived at their destination at the same time. The hikers hiked at a constant rate of 5 kilometers per hour, and the jeep averaged a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. And my question is, how much time was saved by the hiking? Here is my solution. The commander started out going in his jeep a distance of X kilometers toward his destination. Then, after dropping those men off to continue hiking, he turned back and went a lesser distance, Y kilometers, back to meet the hikers. He did this at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. He took an unknown length of time going forward, which I will call T1, and another unknown length of time going back, which I will call that time T2. Using the formula distance equals rate times time, we have now these two equations. X equals 50 times T1, Y equals 50 times T2. I add those two equations, and on the right side I factor out the common factor 50. That gives me this equation. X plus Y equals 50 times T1 plus T2. Meanwhile, during that same total length of time, T1 plus T2, the 8 hikers hiked from the starting point a distance X minus Y kilometers, and their speed, we are told, was 5 kilometers per hour. So we have this equation, again based on distance equals rate times time. X minus Y equals 5 times T1 plus T2. I now divide this black equation by this red equation. The factors T1 plus T2 on top and bottom cancel. That gives us this equation. X plus Y over X minus Y equals 10. I multiply both sides of this equation by the denominator X minus Y. That gives me this equation. X plus Y equals 10X minus 10Y. I add 10Y to both sides and subtract X from both sides, and I get 11Y equals 9x. Now here's what I think happened. The commander in his Jeep first went x kilometers toward his destination, then y kilometers back, then another x toward, then another y back, and finally another x toward, arriving at his destination. The total distance from here to here being 75 kilometers. That's x plus x plus x minus y equals 75. That's 3x minus 2y equals 75. So we now have these two equations. 11y equals 9x, 3x minus 2y equals 75. There are a bunch of ways to solve this system of two equations. I will use the substitution method. I will take the top equation and solve it for y, which gives me y equals 9x over 11. I substitute that into the second equation, and I have 3x minus 2 times 9x over 11 equals 75. I now multiply both sides of this equation by 11, giving me this equation, 33x minus 18x equals 75 times 11. Combining the x's on the left side, I have 15x equals 75 times 11. Dividing both sides by 15, I have x equals 5 times 11. X equals then 55. And now I substitute that value of x into this equation. Y then equals 9 times 55 over 11, and so y equals 45. So now I'm getting a good idea of what happened. The commander drove in his Jeep from the 0 kilometer mark to 55 kilometers. Then he went back 45 kilometers to the 10 kilometer mark, then forward another 55 to the 65 kilometer mark, then back 45 to the 20 kilometer mark, and finally forward 55 to the 75 kilometer mark. So in all, he drove 255 kilometers. He averaged 50 kilometers per hour, so I divide 255 kilometers by his average speed, 50 kilometers per hour, and find that this whole operation took 5 1/10 hours. We're supposed to figure out how much time was saved by doing it this way compared with doing it all by Jeep. Well, if he had done it all by Jeep, he would have had to make 5 trips of 75 kilometers each. That's a total of 375 kilometers, and averaging 50 kilometers per hour, that works out to be 7 5/10 or 7.5 hours. So to find out how much time he saved, we subtract 5 1/10 hours from 7 5/10 hours. Subtracting, we find that the amount of time saved was 2 4/10 hours. That's 2 hours and 24 minutes saved. And we notice that each soldier hiked a total of 20 kilometers and rode a total of 55 kilometers. So that is my solution to my hike and ride challenge. Thank you for watching this solution video.